to start this up. I believe, Paul, in sometime in early 2003, perhaps towards the end of January. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but our contact information is there. Paul and Daniel and myself are available to answer any of your questions. And definitely, if you're interested in getting involved in the mentorship process, maybe, Paul, you can speak to that.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, absolutely. This is going to roll out probably February of 2023. But if you have an interest in participating, please send me an email. We're going to start pooling all the interested businesses and communities together, EDOs, and segregating them by the appropriate regional PAC that will be delivering the mentorship. Just to piggyback on what Tim said, there's a tremendous amount of learning that takes place. It's a joint learning. It's kind of a joint journey that you're on when you're in the class, but there's also that individualized components so that you can talk specifically about questions and issues that you have for your community or for your business or for your idea, and get some specialized, focused feedback from your PAC contact. The first cohort we actually got a contract awarded for one of the businesses that was part of that cohort. And it was tremendous how just that process made them so much more confident in bidding and trying to secure additional contracts. It was incredible. So they had a level of frustration about that the bidding process was onerous, was difficult, was complicated, and that they had never received any contracts whatsoever. They went through the bidding and evaluation of bids, and they realized in that workshop, they realized what it is that they had been doing wrong, and they course corrected, and kind of went into their additional bids with a greater sense of purpose, and they won the contract. And so their attitude was, oh my gosh, we won the contract. The government thinks we can actually deliver on what we said we were going to, so now we better do it. So they lined up all their ducks and got everything going, and pretty soon they were delivering on the contract requirements, and they were so confident that they were looking at multiple bids moving forward, because they felt so confident that they understood the process and understood the requirements that the government had put in place and how to navigate through that. So we're hoping, of course, we're always hoping that every bid is successful, but what we're hoping to do is to increase the comfort level of all participants in the mentorship program so that they can more properly look through the opportunities, evaluate which ones are worth bidding, and create those bids with knowledge that they have a very good chance of being successful because they understand what government is looking for and what the process is to get that. So that's why we're really confident and excited about scaling up this opportunity to the different regions, not just one pan-Canadian mentorship program, but a regional approach to it. And so we're going to roll that out. We're also excited to advise that one of Cando's premier regional training events, BC Links to Learning, is going to be delivered in person in Vancouver at the end of January, beginning of February. And one key component of that event is a procurement day, where we're actually going to sign up EDOs to be part of the Pacific Region PAC mentorship program. And we'll start taking registrations for that during BC Links to Learning. So all of the PAC folks and staff from Victoria and Vancouver will be on hand, and we'll start registering EDOs from BC and Yukon for that regional mentorship. And then what we learn through this process will roll out for the other 5 regions as well. So it's it's exciting times because we're rolling out and scaling up the mentorship right across the country now.
Great, thank you, Paul. I'll give you a chance to breathe there. Just hopefully for Elder Rick, we may need a couple of extra minutes of penalty time, given that we're in the World Cup scenario here. I want to just provide a little bit space to a colleague and friend, Barry Payne. Barry has many different experiences, both being a supplier, being a business owner and entrepreneur, but also working in the federal government with procurement. And to close off today, we were hoping that we could have Barry talk just a bit about his journey for a couple of minutes and some of the key elements that he's discovered on the way through. Gives everyone online a chance to meet Barry and know that he is also a procurement assistance resource to you as well during your journey or your experiences as you look at this area. So Barry, if you're available, we'd love to have you say hi to everyone, introduce yourself, and just talk a bit about your experience before we close out the event.
Sure, great. Excuse me. Hello, everyone, and thanks, John, for the kind introduction. Wow, what a webinar! I'm still learning things. Quite informative. My name is Barry Payne, as John mentioned. I'm a member of the Hiawatha First Nation, and actually I'm coming to you from Hiawatha First Nation today. As John mentioned, I'm a member of PAC. I'm actually one of the newest members of PAC, the PAC team that's being presenting today. And I'm new to PAC, but not new to federal government contracting, as John had mentioned. I started my first venture, Adirondack Technologies Furniture, well over 20 years ago, from right here, where I'm sitting, actually, well, below me in the basement of where I'm sitting. Now that my kids have grown and moved on, I've been able to move up in the world, and I get to look out a window most of the day while I'm working, so that's kind of nice. Adirondack, as I grew it over the years, actually, eventually we were able to grow it substantially. It was an office furniture company where we actually built cubicles. Somebody would build the building and we would build the cubicles inside the building. And pretty much if you go anywhere in Ottawa these days, we were probably one of the ones that did the actual office fit out within those buildings. We actually, at one point, we were the 3rd largest supplier to the Canadian federal government in that space, ahead of many of the large, well-known international companies that exist. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. The success of that venture actually allowed me to expand into a variety of other activities along the way. Most of which Adirondack HR is probably the biggest and most successful one of all of them. And Adirondack HR came about as, it's one thing to build an office, but it's another contract to move an office. And that's how we kind of got into that. We had to kind of, get staff and things like that. And then, and through that endeavor, actually, that's how I started building my Indigenous, extensive Indigenous contact network. I call it a happenstance because I didn't plan on building a network like that, but I kind of had to in order to meet the 33% criteria that was mandated in projects. One of the things that happened though, as that company started to grow, or people would start asking me, did I know of any Indigenous people that they could use for temporary help or this role or that role? And so that we really started to grow. We got into temporary help and grew from that and got involved in doing a number of other roles, mainly IT, engineering, professional services, administration, like clerical things like that. And so taking all that experience that we had gained and things like that, we were able to leverage a lot of our federal government experience and the references that we were able to build along the way. And this allowed us to venture out into other areas, such as the Canadian Collaborative Procurement Initiative, which I just started talking about again recently. I forgot about talking about it for a long time, but it seems like it's coming back. I think somebody touched on it earlier. I think Cando will be doing some work on that a little bit later, and it's an amazing opportunity within your own communities where many of the municipalities and government agencies around across Canada are actually members. I think there's like 227 of them. So it's a great opportunity to kind of look at other opportunities as well. Also, we're both CCAB and many may not have heard CAMC, it's Canadian Aboriginal Minority Supplier Council. But we were certified in both those organizations. And by being members of those organizations, we were able to leverage those certifications into expanding into the public and private sector across Canada. We eventually opened offices in Toronto, at Calgary, so we had Ottawa, plus here in Hiawatha. But we ended up doing work for some of the banks, and then we got into doing into the energy sector in Western Canada. And I think John talked, I like to think of myself as a resource because I really didn't have any sort of connections, or I didn't spend, I don't have an MBA, or I was just basically perseverance and hard work. So, and that's what I like to get out and encourage people with, identify with me that I just showed up and I started, working hard like any business you have to do. Personally, I've been involved well over $200 million in sales. If you take them all, kind of put them together, as I mentioned, office systems, the cubicles, and that was like furniture that we did, boardroom tables, things like that. Obviously the staffing, which I touched on, but even got outside into other products like medical equipment, office supplies, dental supplies, even water at one point we did. So I like to call it my ADHD period. I'm not sure that's gone away, but it's, I like to refer to it as that because I was involved in many things. Thing to keep in mind when I touch on a lot of those, and it's an area I'm a huge fan of, is many of these were done in the low dollar value procurement that you've heard us, I think Paul has mentioned it a couple of times and some of the folks. And this is a way that allows a business to actually learn at your own speed. And we can teach you how to do that. One of the things I always like to say is all departments actually have a personality on how they do things. And by engaging in the low dollar value procurement area, you actually get to learn the personalities of the departments. You also get to learn to meet the various people in those departments. So great opportunity, and we're there to help you as well. I actually am, as I mentioned, I'm new to PAC. I had retired for a little while prior to coming to PAC. I hated every moment of it. I was told by my family I was driving everybody crazy because they weren't used to seeing me around the house every day. How I came about the PAC is kind of interesting. I was ranting on LinkedIn one day about how my retirement isn't what I thought it would be. And Tara Hartley, who I've known for years, actually came up with this idea and offered me an opportunity to come and work what I consider my dream role now, and that's to assist people in encouraging them to increase their bidding on federal contracts. Not even just federal, but corporate as well, because there's a lot of experience there. And as I said, I get to utilize my over 20 years of experience, and that's one of the tools we as a department offer on a daily basis, and it's all free, which I love to be able to tell people. When I started up 20 some odd years ago, these tools didn't exist. It was all voluntary. We were pretty much on our own. I can remember listening to things like Amway cassettes and that for motivation, driving back and forth. And so now I look at the mandate, and I look at the opportunities, and I look at the people I meet across the country, where we're standing, where we're ready to build that capacity. And I like to, as I said, encourage people, but also like people to reach out to me, because over those years, I've met a lot of folks inside and outside the Indigenous world. And I've done a lot of connecting over the years, just putting organizations and people together. One of the ways that the federal government, and we've accepted, is the fact that we'd love to see more collaboration, more joint ventures and opportunities. And I think that's one way to increase opportunities within your communities. So what you heard here today is just a start, and it's going to be hopefully a pretty exciting 3 years while John is over at Cando, and I'm looking forward to offering my assistance and our team's assistance in any way possible. So thank you for having me today, and it was great to listen. And back to you, Paul, or John, I guess, whoever's.
Oh, this is all
Thanks so
Paul.
much, Barry. That's all, Paul. Barry, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Barry quickly before we close out today's showcase?
I'll just do one last plug for Barry, is that I have been so impressed with watching Barry connect, and he is a wizard on LinkedIn. And I think he's probably going to have about 100 new requests for friending, or whatever we call it, connecting on LinkedIn after this. And he is absolutely one of the most important connectors I have met in this space. So even if you don't have questions that you want to raise right now for Barry, I do recommend people track him down. He is so genuine in his assistance that he's providing to people, and his experience, the breadth and depth of his experience is quite incredible. So just one more plug for Barry, because I've really treasured watching him do the work he's doing right now. So thank you, Barry.
I echo that. Thank you, Barry. Barry has shared his email address and point of contact with LinkedIn in the chat. I've done the same. So if you're interested in the upcoming mentorship sessions or any of the other Cando initiatives that we have, please drop me an email. I'd be happy to continue a dialogue outside of this. Like I said early on, I probably don't have the answer, but I know who does. So I'll connect you with the people, the knowledge keepers, and make sure that any of your questions get answered in due course. One final note: thank you all for spending time with us. Materials will be available starting Thursday at the Cando website, edo.ca. Just go to Procurement Showcase under the EDO Tools tab. So thank you all. Thank you to the presenters. Thank you all for participating. I'll now turn this over to Elder Rick to close out our event today. Elder Rick, you're on mute. Elder Rick, you need to turn on your microphone, please.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I lost my screen somehow, but here I am. Okay, as long as you can hear me. One of the things that I really want to share as well, real quick, is that community engagements through youth mental health support programs with ensures for future partners. Like a lot of the programs on the reserves, they need. I think that needs to be part of the strategy of a percentage should be going to the community youth engagement, and that way, and supporting you mental health programs within the program. That's so important, because I've worked with federal, national, I worked with United Nations, and I've seen the lack of people of resources for the community at the grassroots level for our youth. And I think I know that's really important. That should be part of the equation when community engagement is going between government and communities, that they both have that. A percentage should have something, should be said, what are you doing for your youth? And let's do something together to support the youth in your program. That's something I know we do it on a national scale, but I'd really like to see it more on a grassroots scale as part of the equation as well. So thank you. I'm going to say a quick prayer for everybody. It was an amazing day today, and thank you everybody for being here. And all the presenters, you guys are all amazing. And that's in LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well. It's like, it's amazing. That's a place I meet a lot of people that I know. I get to meet, and I get to see old friends there as well. So here's my prayer, and thank you very much, everybody. Ha no tawi mau se watsium. Ha naskimanan mi nagiska minan. Ha wapatina manina no tahaya. Wichanan, Swaimnan, Tamagamemnan. No te wichaha ni taisino, ni tamaksak. Uguma tota mauma. Wichanan, Wes wapatama, Wes musita, so tuske on totama. No te wichaha ni taisino. Naskumanimstahe. Hi, all my relations.
Thank you so much, Elder Rick. That concludes our day. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. And we'll be sending out emails later this week once the materials have been posted up on the website. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
This one was Lima?